Hi, welcome to the Corner of Knit and Tea, episode 463. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Twitter and Instagram, Blue Sky. I also blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. Finally, I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where I sell my handspun yarns and knitting patterns. Hi, how are you? I hope that you are doing well. Today is the last Monday in February, February 26th. I can hardly believe we are already almost to March. It feels like this year is flying by, even if individual days go slowly. And the weather here is decidedly spring-like. We really have not gone back into winter. I still think we will a little bit, but yesterday it was 70 degrees here and things are greening up and the world is confused. I live just a little bit outside of Kansas City proper. And we're kind of a cross between suburban and rural. A lot of people would say we're rural. There are housing developments down by where I am, but there are also farms all around us. And one of the things that happens when spring comes around is I can hear frogs in, well, technically it's a drainage ditch, but it looks like a little creek, so we call it the creek. And I can hear frogs in the creek. And when I came home from my walk this weekend, I heard at least one frog in the creek. And like I said, it's not really a creek. It's our property's water feature, which is where water goes. And yeah. But the frogs are never back this early. That's usually a March thing. And I just don't know what's going on right now. But it is sunny and warm. It is supposed to be, the temperature is supposed to drop tomorrow, but then it's supposed to go back up into the 60s. So I just don't really know what we're doing. Global warming. Something. I am just hoping that it's not going to mean that the summer is really super hot, because that I would not be looking forward to. Anyway, I hope that you are doing well. I have a decent amount of crafty goodness to show you. I have done lots this week, although not all of the things that I meant to. And so I have lots of nice things to show you and some things to talk about. So I think we'll just get right in there. Today I am drinking fancy Formosa Oolong from Tea Embassy. I bought this quite a while ago. I have lots and lots and lots of tea, and I love buying and trying new teas. But I also have to say it gives me a lot of pleasure to be able to finish a tea and toss the bag. And I finished this bag today. So I just have lots, and so using it up, it's like getting yarn out of stash. It's just like an exciting moment. So fancy Formosa Oolong from Tea Embassy. And I am drinking it in my Hoops and Yo-Yo mug that says, "Hey cutie, could I'm trying to read backwards, get a refill, and then on the other side it says, caffeinate me." And then there's just, and it's Hoops and Yo-Yo, who used to be iconic characters for Hallmark once upon a time, and they were super funny. So that is what I'm drinking. This one is good. It's a little bit smoky. It's perfect for an afternoon pick-me-up to get through the rest of the day. It's about 1 o'clock right now, and I am filming on my lunch hour, and then I will be finishing up the day. So let's talk about the knits. I have one finished object, one work in progress, and then I'm going to show you two things, one that I'm going to go back to, which is work in progress, and one which will be a new cast on. So total 4, but not working on all of them yet. So the thing that I finished this week is my mom's sweater, and I'm really, really happy with it. This is a pattern called Maven, the Maven Top, and it is by Maven Crafted, and there is a link in the show notes to her website where she sells that pattern. It is also available on Ravelry. And what it is it is a top-down tee with yoke increases, and it's a simple tee in stockinette with some garter ridges. And I made mine just a little bit more interesting by using a gradient. The gradient that I used was from Marionated Yarns. It was 800 yards of her merino cashmere nylon, and it was in a pink gradient that started at a very pale pink and ended up at a magenta. I think it's Princess Quail, but I can't remember. All the details will be in the show notes because I have put them in there already. But this is the sweater. Let me double check. Yep. this is my sweater. So this is for my mom's birthday, which is coming up in another 2 weeks. So I have just a little bit of time to pop this in, I guess a week and a half. I have a little time to wrap it up and pop it in the mail to her. It's already washed, blocked, all the ends are snipped. I wove them in before I blocked, but I snipped them after, and it came out to, I think, just the right size. Yes, it is fairly tiny. It is definitely not big enough for me. It is a size extra small, but I think that actually will fit my mom. She's 5'2" and she is tiny, and when I look at her clothes, she is often wearing an extra small. So, and occasionally, I think if she likes the t-shirt, she'll buy it in a girl's extra large. So, yeah. So, like I said, I just went through the gradient. I did do some kind of fading, and I kind of borrowed my fading from Andrea Mowry's Comfort Fade cardigan. It looks a little different because it's not in reverse stockinette stitch, so it does have a little bit, it is a little bit more like distinctive lines, but I decided I just had to be okay with that. And I think when you get just a little bit further back, it doesn't, you don't see it, it doesn't totally read that way. So like I said, I used all the colors. I had about 40 grams of yarn left over, and I started with, gosh, I don't remember, it was 6 skeins, it was probably 150 grams. No, but I used more than that. It was like 800 yards, so it was probably close to 200 grams. So I used about 150, or between 600 and 700, I think. I guess I used about 600. Huh. I'll have to think about that. Well, 3/4 would be, yeah, 600, which was about what it called for my size. I did make it a little bit longer. The only modifications are that I made the body just a little bit longer, and then the other thing that I did was the pattern calls for the sleeves to be finished off with an I-cord edging, and I did 1x1 rib to match the others. I had tried to do the sleeves in kind of the same gradient color or the next gradient color, and I didn't like it, so I went ahead and used the magenta that I used all the way at the bottom. So while the sleeve transition to the cuff is abrupt, it does match the very bottom of the sweater, so it's all the same yarn. So no other modifications. Loved knitting this one. I may end up knitting another one for myself. This is like the perfect summer tee, and for those of you thinking wool in a summer tee, wool actually breathes quite a bit, and it's not bad during the summer. I have another one. I knit myself this tee in Zen Yarn Garden in their Luxe Gradient, which is kind of between a fingering and a lace weight. It's like a very, very light fingering, and I wear the snot out of that tee, and I also have knit another tee in that yarn, and I wear that one a lot too. They are nice and cool and moisture wicking, and so they are really, really good for summer. So that is my mom's tee. It is done, and now I'm gonna send it off to her. So that is my primary project for the week, just getting that done. However, I did finish that on Wednesday night, and so I put some more time into my sweater for kind of my finishuary category. So every February, some friends and I participate in a Fix It, Frog It, or Finish It February, and that is after the gift knitting season, after a little selfish knitting, after whatever else, we decide to take stock and pull out some of those projects. Excuse me, my nose is running with the spring weather. We decide to take stock of all of our projects and find ones that might need just a little something to be fixed or finished. So maybe we just didn't finish a sleeve, maybe we didn't finish steaming it up, maybe it's just been sitting for a little while, maybe there was something wrong with it and we didn't like it, we wanted to re-knit it a little bit bigger, or we wanted to fix the hem or the sleeve or whatever else, or frog it, which is we started it and it just doesn't look good and we're just not into it, and we're just going to rip it out and reclaim the yarn and do something else with it. So I am doing a combination of frog it and fix it, I guess. I frogged a sweater that I wasn't happy with. I knitted a couple years ago, and it sat on my, after I finished it and blocked it and took photos of it, it sat on my dresser because I didn't love the fit of it on me. And I think I could have probably re-knit it a size smaller and it would have been better, but I decided just to move on from that, and I ripped it out and reclaimed the yarn, and I am knitting another sweater. So what I am knitting is called the Ramona cardigan. It is a pattern by Elizabeth Smith, and the link to the pattern on Elizabeth Smith Knits website is in the show notes, and it is called the Ramona cardigan, and it is a top-down raglan shaped cardigan with a few like a nice raglan detail, and it is just for bulky weight, and it's got a simple 1x1 rib finishing, and it's just meant to be kind of a nice it's not exactly slim fitting, but it is kind of a tailored cardigan, and so I thought it would be really cute because what I have is 100% cotton. I thought it would be really nice in the spring transition to summer, maybe even in summer, even though it's bulky weight, in air conditioning, because it is cotton, so it's not going to be as warm as wool, and then also maybe in the fall as we transition towards winter again. And I had used this bright pink yarn, and this is Juniper Moon Bud, and actually I have a skein. I had to order an extra skein or two. So this is Juniper Moon Farm Bud, and it is in the colorway Primrose. This is kind of a boucle type yarn. It is cotton, and then it's plied with a thread, and I think I said my colorway is Primrose, and it is 109 yards to 100 grams, so it is definitely a bulky weight. So I am working on my cardigan, and last week I showed you that I finished the first sleeve, and I went ahead and knit the second sleeve in about a day and a half, and so that is where I am on this project. So like I said, it is a top-down raglan, and what I did was I split off for the sleeves, and I finished the ball that I was working on in the body, so I have maybe an inch or two below the underarms, and then what I did was I went ahead and knit my sleeves. So I knit my sleeves, and I wove in all my ends, and so this is what I am working on, and like I said, it's a 1x1 rib, and then the yoke detail that's really nice is it's actually a, sorry, I have so much stuff here on my desk, you won't believe, like I clear it so that you don't see it, but it's like full of stuff. So the raglan shaping detail is that it's got a purl bump every other row, so it's done in garter stitch, so it's a little hard to see because the yarn is boucle and it's not going to show you a lot of texture. That is exactly why I picked a simple cardigan pattern, because I knew that this yarn would not show anything that was deeply patterned, and so I definitely wanted to account for that. So both sleeves are done, and I did that for a couple reasons. One is I didn't want to have the bulk of the body when I was trying to do the sleeves. The second one is that because it was yarn that I had reclaimed from a sweater I had previously knit, I had lots and lots and lots of little balls of yarn. A chunk of the sweater was knit just yarn balls all the way through, but it had been a bottom up sweater, so then we divided for front and back, and then it was a deep v-neck, so I had a left side and a right side, and I had a collar, and I had sleeves, and I had all these things, and so I used up all the little bits and bobs almost left over from that, and they are all in the sleeve, which is also why I went in and wove in all the ends, because there were lots of ends in my sleeve to weave in. So now I just need to do the body, and then I need to do the button bands, and see, I have a couple inches, because this is the underarm right here, so I have a couple inches, and I need to do more. This will be a slightly cropped cardigan, and then it's got a 1x1 hem, like a thick 1x1 hem, and then it will have button bands and a collar. So I have 4 skeins left, which should be enough to finish that, and that is what I'm going to work on this week, and my hope is maybe I will even finish it this week. It is 400 yards of yarn. It is a lot, but it's bulky weight, and so it should go pretty fast. And I will say that while cotton often is not forgiving on the hands, not nearly as forgiving as wool because it doesn't have as much give, this is not particularly difficult cotton to work with, and so it's not super rough and it's not super hard on my hands. So my hope is maybe I can finish this sweater this week. Honestly, I had hoped the sweater would be done by the end of February. I'm probably not going to make that because February is Thursday, or the last day of February is Thursday, and Friday is March 1st. But if I could finish it next weekend, with all my knitting time next weekend, because that's where I do the bulk of my crafting, that would be fabulous. So that is my plan, to get this one done and off the needles so I can show it to you next week. So that is primarily where I'm going to spend my time. So I have, once I finished this sweater, I was starting to think about what is next. And I realized, first of all, I have some projects that I kind of cast aside to work on what I wanted to work on this month. And so I do have one of those projects here that I'm going to go ahead and pick back up. And these are the Snowberry Mittens by Kalora Hudson. And I was knitting them in a combination of Malabrigo Rios in the Reflecting Pool colorway, and then held doubled with a strand of Surrey alpaca and silk lace from one of my favorite local dyers that was left over from a sweater that I knit last year. And these are really lovely mitts. They have these baubles that are super fun, and you make them with the aid of a crochet hook, which makes them a lot easier to actually complete, because the thing I dislike about baubles is when you have to like purl all the stitches back together and you're trying to figure out how to purl all those stitches together, and doing it with a crochet hook is really kind of fun. And I think I kind of went overboard and made some of my berries on my Snowberry mitts a little bigger than they were meant to be, but I really like these. So this one needs a thumb. As you know, I'm not a huge fan of knitting mitten thumbs, so that is the first one done. And then I have just the cuff of the second one. So I have knit the cuff, and now I am ready to start knitting. The entire mitten is charted, and so I just need to do the mitten chart, and it is the mirror opposite of this one, and then I will need to do the thumbs. So I don't know if I'll wait until my sweater is done, but I will be picking this back up either this week or next week. And so you should see some progress and see that finished. I think the first mitten took me maybe 2 days. I'm sorry, I think I'm going to sneeze. So when I do, I'll excuse myself, maybe not. Maybe now that I talked about it, it's not going to happen. Anyway, so that is one of the things that I'm going to pick up. The second is actually going to be a new cast on, and I realized that one of the things that I meant to cast on in February, and then I got completely sidetracked, is I want to knit a blanket for my niece who got married this past year. She got married in October. She is 26. I'm not talking about... For those of you who have been with me for a while, I have a niece and a nephew on each side of my family. So I have my sister's children who are small. They are 10 and 7, and I talk about them quite a bit, and I knit for them quite a bit. And then on my husband's side of the family, I have a niece who is 26 and a nephew who is 19. So slightly different. The 26-year-old niece got married in the fall, and for a variety of reasons, I didn't have a lot of advance notice about her wedding. I knew they were getting married, but I didn't know exactly when, and so I didn't have time to make them a blanket. And a lot of times what I will do for family members is I will make them a blanket to kind of share on the couch as part of their wedding gift. And so what I did was we just gave my niece a gift, and I thought, you know, I'm gonna make this blanket for their first anniversary. Now they have 2 rescue pit bulls who they love to death, and who love them to death, and not literally, but so I decided that what I wanted to do was I wanted to knit them a blanket that would be in acrylic, and I decided to use that because it needs to be hard wearing, indestructible, and it needs to be able to be washed frequently because they have 2 dogs that cuddle with them on the couch. They think they're lap dogs. So, and they're very not lap dogs. Anyway, so I picked yarns in the colors of their wedding, which were this black and kind of a burgundy red, and what I ended up picking was Barocco Comfort. And Barocco Comfort is 210 yards to 100 grams, so it's right around a worsted weight, and the contents are 50% superfine nylon and 50% fine acrylic. And like I said, I definitely picked these knowing that they were acrylic and plastic and not wool and cotton. And I specifically did that because I needed them to really be washable and durable. And that is just what this project called for. So I went ahead and picked up a bunch of skeins of this, and I am going to be working on a mosaic slip stitch pattern from Pearl Soho. It is really cool looking. I can't remember if it's actually by the Pearl Soho design team or if it's by a specific person. I will put that information in the show notes, and my hope is, I don't necessarily expect that I will have this cast on by next week. My hope is I can finish my sweater this week so that then next week I will start on this. And this is a longer term project. You'll probably see it on and off as I work on it for the next several months. Their anniversary is like mid to late October, and so my hope is to get it done in time for that. So there's no real time rush on it, but I would like to be working on it steadily so that I have a blanket to send them for their first anniversary. So that is kind of the next in my knitting pattern. I still do want to knit more mittens, and so my plan is to continue knitting mittens and working on those kinds of projects kind of in between. And I don't know what my next sweater or other things will be. I know that I am going to be doing a little bit less knitting for others this year, just through a variety of reasons. My sample knitting has slowed down quite a bit, and also my knitting for my niece and nephew, I have some other gift ideas for them now that they're a little bit older and into a few other things, so I'm not going to entirely just be knitting for them. So I'm a little bit excited about that because it will free me up. I won't have to come up with two. I'm not going to knit them their annual yearly sweaters. They can still fit into last year's sweaters, and I'm not sure if they can fit into the year before, but I think so. So they have a couple years of sweaters. They will not be cold. And so this year I have some scientific gifts in mind that they are very excited, that they are very excited by experiments and building things. And so I found some cool kits that I think I'm going to do this year. So let's talk about spinning, and then I have a little bit of sewing, and then I will let you go. So I did finish the braid of BFL silk from Melanated Boho Bay. I actually finished playing it this morning. I meant to last night, but I just didn't quite have time. And this is in springy colors. It came out a little bit more mottled than I 100% wanted, because the colors are kind of in a variety of colors around the wheel. We had a kind of a magenta, and then a light pink, and a peach, and an orange, and then some golden yellow, and then a kind of a light pale green, and then also a darker green. And so it's kind of that first, I guess 2/3-ish of the, well, not 2/3, the first more than half of Roy G. Biv, and so it came out really nice. It needs a washing and a blocking. I suspect this is going to be closer to worsted weight because of the way I can tell is when I wind it off on the Nitty Naughty, I count the number of wraps, and that's going to influence the length. I never tell you the length really until I finish it, but my guess is it might be a DK weight. My guess is it's going to be about 250 to 300 yards. I'm not exactly sure. Generally with BFL, I get a little bit less yardage out of it, and although with the silk, it probably won't shrink up as much as some of the like pure wool blends do. So I'm not entirely sure, but we'll have to see. It's got some really nice moments of like green and pink and orange and green, and so there are a few spots in here where if knit straight through in short increments, it will look maybe a little bit brown, which was sort of what I was hoping to avoid, but there are plenty of other moments where you'll see pink and peach and green and other things. So I think it's going to be a really nice one, and that will be up in the shop probably later this week. So that brings me to what I'm going to spin this week, and I decided to go ahead and pick up a recent braid that I got from Hello Yarn. If you are in the Fiber Club and you have not gotten your January braid yet, January's braid usually ships the first couple days of February, but since we are almost to the end of February, I'm hoping that everyone has gotten it, so I'm not spoiling anyone. This is called Paint by Number. And it is a Tarhi bamboo and silk. So it's 80% Tarhi and then a little bit of bamboo and silk. And you can see the silk and the bamboo, they add these streaks and will sort of make the braid look a little bit ethereal and a little bit muted. I don't even know how to describe it, but it tones it down a little bit and it gives it a little bit of shine. And so this is called Paint by Number. It's blues and lots of greens and yellows and a little bit in the way of browns. It was inspired by those old Paint by Number collages, particularly of forests and horses and trees and blue sky. And so that is kind of where it came from. And I feel like it's a great spring colorway. And since we are in our springy weather, I thought I would do this one this week. This will go in the shop, so if it is something that looks kind of fun to you, keep an eye out for it. Hopefully I'll have something good to show you next week on this one. So the final thing, and this actually took quite a bit of my crafting time this weekend, is I finished my Halloween quilt. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stand up and stand back and let you see the finished quilt, because it is decent sized, and so I want to let you see it in its full. So let me see if I go a little bit further back. Oop, I can't go any further back, but this is my Halloween quilt. So it came out to be approximately 36 by 36, and it is full of fun Halloween fabrics. So let's talk about this a little bit. So I used the Maywood Garden, sorry, not Maywood Garden, I keep wanting to say garden. I used the Maywood Studios, it was their Spooky Hallow fabric, and I used a fat quarter bundle. So I got all these great prints, the ghosts and the leaves and the cats and the trees and all kinds of fun stuff, and I mashed this up, and I messed it up. Okay, that's kind of funny. This block is the wrong direction. It should be facing the other way. It should be facing horizontal. I didn't notice it. The whole quilt is done. It's not getting fixed now, but see how these blocks are like 90 degrees to each other? I totally messed that up. Oops. Okay, I'm gonna focus on this one because that's gonna upset me a little bit. It'll be fine. It's gonna go on the wall anyway. It's not a big deal. It's apparently a what was that they used to say, like a Persian flaw? Like they used to create a flaw when they were weaving Persian rugs, because God is perfect. And sorry, that got a little religious and more than I meant to. I believe the theory was that God is perfect and humans are not perfect, and we make mistakes, and so they would make a mistake an intentional mistake in the rug. So I guess that is my Persian flaw in my quilt. Okay, fabrics are from Maywood Studios in the Spooky Hallow colorway, and it is just all these great Halloween prints. What I did is I used 2 blocks from 2 Missouri Star quilts and mashed them together. So this block is called, this block is from the Drifting Dresden's quilt, and what it is I used a Dresden, which is a almost a pie plate shaped piece, and if you cut enough of the Dresden blocks out and you lay them next to each other, like literally next to each other with all the wider sides out and the smaller sides in, you actually will get a Dresden plate, which is a full circular block made of all of these. But you can also reverse them, as I have here, and then basically make yourself squares. So what I have done is finished, they were 9-inch squares, and so I just made squares of that fabric, and honestly I just made long strips sewing all these pieces together, back and forth, and then I cut them into squares. The second block that I used is from another Missouri Star pattern, and I sort of made this one up as I went along. I didn't actually buy the pattern, but this is the from the Cheerio pattern, and it's Cheery, CHEERY-O, and it basically is just an appliqued circle of fabric, and I thought it kind of looked like a moon. And so I thought it would be kind of fun to have some, quote, moons on my Halloween fabric, because I had all these bats and other things and phases of the moon. And so I have 4 of those blocks. And what I did is I just cut out the circle of fabric, and I had some fusible applique, which is just like a light backing and it's sticky on both sides. So you stick it to one side of your fabric, and then you place this piece down on top of another piece of fabric, and then you iron it again so that it sticks to the fabric. So it's like two-sided sticky, almost like two-sided sticky tape. So it holds it in place, and it gives it just a little bit of body so it's easier to sew. And then I just zigzag stitched right around the edge. This is called applique, which is basically sewing a piece of fabric to another piece of fabric. So I have the 4 of those applique blocks and 12 of the other blocks, and I just put them together in a 4x4. And then I ordered a slightly different fabric so that I could have kind of a stripy binding, and I ordered it in purples so it would kind of complement the bit of purple in there. So this is a 36 by 36 quilt, which honestly is a little bit big for a wall quilt. I probably should have aimed for maybe 32 by 32, but it's it is done. It is, what I did is I free motion quilted it. I showed you that the last couple weeks on the podcast. And so that is, I just did meandering lines and squiggles and kind of went behind and went through all the layers of my quilt. And then the last thing that I did was yesterday, so yesterday I finished free motion quilting, doing all those squiggles, and then I added the binding on. And then last night at midnight, rather than work on my sweater, I went ahead and hand tacked down the binding on the back. So it is 100% complete. I'm probably going to stick it in the washing machine with some color catchers and just go ahead and wash it and let it get a little bit crinkly and a little bit soft, just because that kind of happens the first time you wash it. It crinkles up just a little bit. So I'll run it through the washer and dryer. And then I ordered a wooden quilt hanger that my husband is going to help me hang on the wall. I ordered it yesterday and it shipped today. So I think this will be next weekend's project. And then it is it's like 2 pieces of wood and held together by screws. And so what you do is you push the top edge of the quilt up between the 2 pieces of wood, and then you tighten the screws until the pieces of wood are like super close together so that they grip the quilt. And then you can slap that, well, you can hang that on the wall, and then you can take your quilts up and you can put quilts up and take them down as you wish without having to make each one hanger friendly, without having to put, like a dowel on the back or having to figure out how to hang each one. And I figured that would be nice because my goal with these quilts is I have a spot in my studio right next to, this is my desk and it's got all my craft stuff, and I have a big spot, empty spot on the wall right here. And so my hope is that I can just change the quilts out seasonally, because I hope to make a few more. This is the first one. It just happened to be because I had the Halloween fabric and I got an itch and I wanted to make it. I started it in December and I finished it this week. And so honestly, I probably will put this one on the wall even though it's not Halloween. But I do have plans for a couple other quilts in a variety of fabrics, and so I'm not going to do one for every season. And in fact, actually, I wasn't planning to do a Christmas one, except I unexpectedly got some fabric that's red and white, and so it might end up being kind of a holiday-ish. It's not Christmas fabric. It actually isn't Christmas fabric at all. It's like a reproduction era 1930s fabric, but it is in cream and white, and so my thought is that I could actually, based on what I think I want to do with it, I thought about maybe getting some green stripey binding for the edges, and then it would just be kind of a holiday quilt. But I'm not planning to do all holiday quilts. My thought is I'll do a spring one. I might do a summer brights. I might do something for the fall before I I don't know. My thought is that I'll have maybe 3 to 5 quilts that I can just kind of rotate through the year, and one place to hang them, just so I can kind of, I'm not really a seasonal person who likes to like put up and take down decor for like every holiday, but I thought it would be nice to have a couple quilts to rotate in and out through the year, to use them as I want. So this is the first of those done. It is my Halloween quilt and I'm very excited about it. I suppose the other thing that I could do to this is I have not put a label on the back of the quilt. And I know everyone says you have to label your quilts, so that, if you pass them on when you're gone, or if you pass them on, or to give you the memory of what's going on. I actually plan to take a picture of this and put, I'm going to put my quilts in my knitting journal. And I don't know if I talked about that. I'll bring it next week to show you. I started a crafting, I kind of got heavy into journaling this year. And so I started a crafting journal where I'm saving like my yarn tags and my little bits of the yarn and notes about the project, and then I'm printing out a picture of the project and putting it in that book. And so I will put all the details of this quilt in there, so then I don't necessarily need to put it on the label because I'd have the book. Anyway, I don't know. But that is my Halloween quilt finished, which means it's probably time to start thinking about what my next quilt is going to be. And I have some ideas, and I'm not going to talk about that today. And honestly, I probably won't work on it this weekend. I'll probably just focus on knitting this weekend and then see about what I might do next. So thank you for sticking with me. I'm a little bit longer than usual today, but I had lots of things to show you and a couple fun finishes. I hope that you are having a lovely week and that you're feeling crafty, that you're enjoying the weather, whatever you're getting, and that you're having a good time. I will say until I see you next time, happy knitting, happy sipping. I mess up my own tagline sometimes. Happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, and maybe a little sewing. And I'll see you next time. Bye.